The
Let's
GST Council recently imposed a 28% tax on online gaming, horse racing, and casinos, where GST will be levied at 28% on the full face value of the placed bets. The decision has raised many eyebrows, not because of the increase in GST rate, but because of the levy of tax on the entire value of the bet. The government defended this move, saying these should be taxed as sin goods to crack down on illegal gaming. The industry has disagreed with this and said that the higher tax will not stop illegal gambling and will also lead to more unlicensed platforms. The GST Council is meeting on August 2 to approve amendments to the GST law for implementing 28% tax on online gaming bets. So why this issue has become so controversial? To talk on this, here I am joined in by Dr. John Joseph, former IRS officer and now a strategic advisor for a Delhi-based think tank. Mr. Dhanendra Kumar, former IAS officer and the first chairperson Competition Commission of India, is also joining us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here. Now, I would like to start off with Mr. Kumar. Sir, how this GST Council's decision will impact the industry, as it claims that 28% tax will actually amount to higher tax of nearly 50 to 60%. Could you shed some light on this, please?
Sure. Monica, let me first of all begin by mentioning that what GST Council had done on the 11th of July in its meeting on the first instance, that they had clubbed the three so-called sin industries, which included online gaming, casinos, and horse racing under one bracket. And all were subjected to 28% GST. Now, as far as this is concerned, it's okay. There is no serious objection to it, because raising it from 18% to 28%, because even in entertainment industry, it was already 28%. So it's okay. One can live with it. But the main problem which the industry is facing, and which in my view also is probably not right, that the differential in the case of online gaming is much higher. Why? Because initially you have to pay 28% on the deposit. Suppose you deposit 100 rupees, so you have to pay 28% on that. And whatever is left with you to play, then on that amount, you play, and whatever you also pay platform fee. And after that, whatever is your winning, if at all, you play with it again. And again, on the same amount, you pay 28% GST. And you keep on paying 28% GST like this until probably you make it zero, or it is reduced to a substantial amount. So it is not a one-time tax GST on the initial amount, unlike in the case of casinos, when you buy a ticket or whatever it is, or your tokens, and you play with them, but it's a one-time GST. In the case of online, because it's all recorded, it's all subjected to recording, so you are playing it 28% every time you have to play a game, which is ultimately resulting with cascading effect to 50, 70% or even more. This is unfair. So all the three in the same bracket, casinos, online gaming, and horse racing, should be subjected to similar treatment, 28% one time, not repeatedly. Secondly, it is also against the spirit of GST, because when GST was brought in the country, the concept was that they should be, all the taxes should be combined, and there should be a one-time tax. Now, in this case, there's a repeat taxation, which probably is not the intention of GST, and it is not serving any purpose. So in my view, this is something which needs to be looked at. And I believe that on the 2nd of August, The GST Council is meeting and they are going to take a view on this and what should be the regulations and take a final call on the whole thing.
Let me bring in Mr. Joseph here. Sir, I would like to know your viewpoint. Do you agree what Mr. Kumar is saying?
Yeah, I do agree to that extent, because the problem will be, as he rightly puts it, charging 28% tax on the wallet amount is okay. But then let us say that, okay, two persons get into a game, they pay the wallet amount of 100 rupees each. One person loses the money, the other person gains the money. You are already deducting the income tax on that one. Then on top of that one, again 28% on that one will lead to multiple taxation on the same amount, which will be very unfair. And as Mr. Kumar rightly puts it, is against the spirit of GST also.
What do you think about the survival of the industry in view of levying taxes in such manner?
Yeah, because as you rightly know, this industry is a very nascent industry and it is a sunrise sector also, if you ask me that way. It is currently getting a lot of investment from abroad, and actually it has generated almost, I mean, if you look at the current scenario, it is almost generated more than 2 lakhs of jobs also in the country. This industry, if the growth potential is being looked into, it is growing at almost 30 to 35% a year. Now, if taxation, which is, I mean, so totally, I mean, against the spirit of the GST comes in, then what happens is the investments will dry up, the job opportunities will also lose, and the sunrise industry will become a sunset industry sort of thing. And actually the government will lose. People will migrate to illegal activities. I mean, say, instead of India, the platforms might change into other countries. People will still play, because we also know that Indians are good at jugaads. So definitely somebody will come with that one, and the government will actually ultimately lose the revenue, which they should legally get from the industry.
Mr. Kumar, what do you like to say about this moral angle which government talked about? The government said that that online gaming is very, very addictive. That's why they had to take such an action. What do you think about this?
Monica, there are a number of other ways to address the issue which you are mentioning. I've read in newspapers that there have been comments about social problems. There have been problems about addiction. Some of the kids might play and they waste all their time and money. It would result in a lot of social problems and so on. I'm aware of all the issues which have been raised. But all the issues can be addressed in a number of other ways, not through high taxation. If it's a question of high taxation to ban it, okay, then it's a different matter. But to address those issues, there have been announcements by MeitY, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, that there would be the self-regulatory bodies, the 3 self-regulatory bodies which have been talked about, and they would formulate guidelines to ensure it. The platforms would also have mechanisms, the buttons and so on, by which they would be, it would be known how long you have been playing, how much you have been playing, and there would be verification of age and so on and so forth, the addiction and things of this kind. All those things can be addressed in different ways, not through taxation. Taxation is not a handle on an instrument to address those social problems. So if the intention of the government is to allow this industry to function as it is functioning all over the world, then it should be done in a manner that the taxation is fine. Let the taxation be 28%. And like other so-called sin industries, the casinos and the horse racing, let it be a one-time tax on the initial deposit. And after that, you play, and then it is not subjected to repeat taxation. For all the social problems, there are ways, and let the government function as a whole government, in the sense MeitY and the Ministry of Finance, they can work together and come to a solution which would address these social problems also, and the issue of revenue, the taxation, and it is not only the issue of the social problems and so on. There are issues of employment, for example. Over 2 lakh people have been employed. There are issues of exports. There are a lot of developers in India who are developing these games in different genres, and these are exported also to various countries. Mind you, in the IT world, most of the boys and girls who are employed in development of these games, etc., they are from India. So in India also, they are developing it and they are exporting it. By the way, this industry has a tremendous potential. And if you look at globally, then Microsoft had acquired an industry, Activision Blizzard, in one of the biggest deals ever for $69 billion. And that deal is currently under scrutiny of antitrust authorities in UK and USA, but that's a different matter. The point is that it is an industry which has got a tremendous potential. So in India, if we wish to let this industry flourish in the interest of economy, in the interest of employment, and in the interest of exports, I think a better move would be to take a balanced view, which is a collaborative view, government as a whole, between media and finance. And the social problems can certainly, I completely agree. I would not deny that the problems exist, but these problems can be addressed appropriately, technically, technologically, by the platforms and also by these self-regulatory bodies which have been sought to be created by the MeitY only for this purpose, to prepare and develop these regulations. So I think we have to have a solution which is a win-win situation for everyone at this juncture.
Mr. Joseph, the government is also claiming that 28% tax will help the government in collecting more revenue from the companies and from the users. And what is your viewpoint on this, being a former IRS officer? You think that this holds true for the industry?
I can only talk about the old story about the goose that lays the golden eggs. If you feel that, okay, you want to get all the eggs, and you kill the goose and find that, okay, there is nothing there. It will be something akin to that will be happening now. Because if the taxation rate is too high, which the industry cannot afford, then, as I rightly put it, they will stop the investments, it will reduce the employment, and they will shut down. But as far as the companies are concerned, it will be shut down in India, but it will be moving outside India in territory, and people will still play. And actually, the government ultimately will lose revenue. Maybe for the initial stages, they might get the revenue, but if you look at the long run, then it will be a loss for everybody, because the country loses the revenue, the country loses the investment, and the country loses its employment. And this is one sector that is growing by leaps and bounds, much higher than the actual GDP growth that we are having. So it should be to give a certainty to the taxation, get the right amount of taxes to be put on this industry, and then allow it to grow. Just because social evils are there, which I do definitely agree, there are many ways of preventing that one, and taxation cannot be the only criteria, only way to control that. It may not be very fair to the industry if we look at that way. So the right approach should be a win-win situation, as Mr. Kumar puts it, and see there should be a certainty to the taxation. I mean, say the definition of the industry and everything, and then the tax should be on the amount that is initially put in, and not on the amount that the person is going to win at every point of time.
So there are also reports saying that the foreign entities who are trying to move Indian users, by giving these kind of advertisement that they won't be, they won't have to pay the GST rate. And some government sources are saying that the foreign entities will also be made to pay taxes on whatever returns they get through these Indian users by using Indian platforms. So what do you think, what can be the tax treatment for these foreign entities if government is planning to tax them? So will they be taxed in the same manner as Indian online gamers are taxed, or the tax treatment will be different?
Ideally, the tax treatment should be the same, because just because it is a foreign entity, if you tax them differently, then it is against the Atmanirbhar Bharat policy of our Honorable Prime Minister, which will be totally against the spirit and the requirement of the country that we require now. So the ideal thing should be the taxation should be same for whether it is a foreign entity or whether it is an Indian entity. But only idea is that, okay, the taxation should be fair also. Otherwise, the industry will move outside India, and then we will be actually losing revenue. That is what one should be stopping it. And then if you look at the MeitY want to push this sector. And that is also one of the biggest departments of the government of India. And if the Ministry of Finance or the GST Council takes an opposite view of stopping the growth of this industry, it will be definitely counterproductive. It should be a win-win situation where the MeitY, the GST Council, the industry, and the entire consumers, everybody should win from the type of taxation that one should introduce.
Monica, if you permit me to say a couple of things here. You mentioned about foreign apps or foreign players entering on the Indian scene. I'm against it. I feel not only the tax, if at all, should be the same, but effort should be to discourage, to ban, not to allow these foreign entities to do business in India. Let me try and explain why I'm saying so. You see, there is a fear that some of these game companies who might be tempted to operate in India, they could be, let us say, from China or from other unfriendly countries, and they could bring in malware, and there could be security problems and so on and so forth. And that's the reason we are keen that it should be all Indian companies who should be operating in India, and they should be given treatment in accordance with Indian laws, and also subjected to various precautions to make sure that all these social evils which were mentioned are adequately taken care of. But internet being something where it's globally connected, it's not easy to suppose you allow all these companies in India to die or to shift offshore. Then if Indian consumers start using these illegal platforms located outside India offshore, firstly, the government would have to work hard in order to ban them. Well, tax, of course, has to be minimum the same, if at all. But in my view, they should be discouraged from operating in India. It should be the Indian companies, Indian platforms, subjected to Indian laws, who should be allowed and encouraged to operate in India. And that's the reason I was suggesting that let us give them the facilities, equal treatment with all the other so-called sin industries, and also install the various precautionary mechanisms, technological mechanisms on the platforms, which are supposed to exist on the platforms, so that minors cannot play. Age is verified. There are also verification through Aadhaar card. There are limits of how much you can play, how long you can play, addiction and stuff like. There was also something mentioned once that some religious conversion things took place and so on and so forth. All those things can be taken care of by the government regulations and through self-regulatory bodies. provided these are all Indian companies and Indian platforms. So that's why I'm not interested at all that the foreign companies and foreign platforms operate in India for the Indian consumers.
But then, sir, won't the foreign investment get impacted if the foreign entities are not allowed in India to operate?
It is not a question of foreign investment operating from the foreign offshore entities. Foreign investment comes to India when the Indian companies, they set up their activities in India. Part of the equity is taken by companies outside, partly by the Indian companies. But if there is an illegal company operating from somewhere, Cayman Islands or somewhere, God knows where, and it operates in India, what revenue does it bring to India? What is the investment into India on that account? The companies abroad, we have no idea which company is this, from which country, and what it is doing. It is no FDI into India. FDI comes into India when the companies are Indian. And that's what we are betting for. So we should encourage Indian companies to operate in India and give them all necessary legal facilities and support. That's what I'm saying.
So, I mean, there are a lot of reports which are saying that on the 2nd of August, government will only be approving amendments to the GST law, and they won't be deliberating on this issue, and they won't tinker with the decisions they have already taken so far for the industry. So if by chance nothing happens on the tax front and on this face value debate front, then what would be your reaction?
It's a hypothetical question. I don't expect this thing to happen. There are senior functionaries. There would be finance minister. There would be the IT and electronics minister, and the members of the GST Council, who are either chief ministers or finance ministers. It's a very high-powered body. I don't expect any such thing to happen. They are wise. They know what is to be done for the benefit of the country. They will take a very balanced decision in the interest of all the stakeholders. I am confident about it.
Joseph, sir, what would you like to say on this?
I think I will support what Mr. Kumar has been saying, because as you very well know, GST Council is one of the apex bodies which take decisions, and those bodies not going to, I mean, we should take it as an hypothetical question what you are putting now, because they will actually deliberate on that one. And as we ourselves have seen, in most of the cases, the right decisions have been taken. And even if a small mistake has taken place at one point of time, at the best possible opportunity, that has been rectified too. So that shows that the council is going to take a very sober decision on this one.
So do you think that it's fair on the government's part to treat online gaming as sin goods?
Because see, the problem is that, okay, it is a question of mindset. I mean, people say that, okay, look, these may create a social problem, though there are not able to be backed up by any research or anything to say that, okay, this has actually led to that. The issue is that, okay, there is a thought process saying that, okay, this can lead to social problems and social evils, so it has to be curtailed. But taxation, as I rightly put it, cannot be the only way to curtail something or social evils. Even if it is for argument's sake, let us consider that, okay, it is leading to social evils, but that cannot be the only way to curtail that. There are any number of ways for doing that one. And if you treat the other horse racing or other betting, gambling and other things also, everything can lead to social evils as because the mindset, I mean, people are having also. But then taxation can't be the only way to set up those wrong things also. We should see that, okay, and new methods have to be invented. I mean, it's created, and we can definitely create in these platforms, because when the online platforms and everything, it is much more easier to create technological ideas to see that, okay, these social evils can be curtailed to a very great extent, even if it happens. So the ideal thing is to tax it in a very proper way, so that the industry wins, the consumer wins, and the government wins.
Okay.
Because since you raised this question, let me attempt a short answer to it. You raised a question whether it is right to club online gaming as a sin industry along with casinos and horse racing. This question, let me try and attempt an answer. In my view, personally, if you were to ask, it is not a sin industry, the entire online gaming, and there have been any number of court judgments. The industry has to be divided into two parts. One is the online games based on skill, and the other is online games based on chance. So there have been various judgments of high courts and Supreme Court which have tried to categorize these two separate online industries. And there have been these judgments which say that they should be treated separately. The games based on the skill, they are not the betting and whatever it is, even if they are accompanied by wagering or betting. But the games which are based on chance, they could be on a different pedestal. The games based on skill, there is something called esports. Globally, it's a separate category, and there are Olympics and so on, which are held for esports. So, but we are not going into that at this moment. The government, in its wisdom, and we support them, they have categorized both them together, that all the online gaming industry would be treated as one, whether it is based on skill and based on chance. And they've clubbed them together along with the other two, casinos and horse betting, horse racing, and imposed 28% on all of them. So we are not going into the details of industries based on skill and based on chance. It would perhaps not be right to categorize the online gaming industry based on skill in the category of sin industry. But anyway, we are not discussing that at the moment. It was only to answer your question.
Okay. The government's approach to the digital landscape in the country is to ensure the internet is open, safe, trusted, and accountable. How, in your opinion, Mr. Kumar, can the government ensure this when the increased taxation rate results in the proliferation of unlicensed operators in the country?
That is exactly we have been arguing just now. It is the MeitY, the Ministry of Electronics and IT, which is responsible for this subject which you have talked about. And that's what they have done. I mean, they have categorized this through the self-regulatory bodies and so on and so forth. And what they are doing is to have an open access and the neutral platforms and so on. So that's why I'm saying the government must take a holistic view. The MeitY has done it, and this subject which you have mentioned just now, it falls within the realm of MeitY. The taxation falls in the Ministry of Finance. So what we are arguing is that they should be working together. It should be government as a whole approach.
Okay. So any final word you would like to give, Joseph, sir?
I think in tomorrow's meeting, or maybe a second meeting, the GST Council will take a very appropriate and wise decision, which definitely will take care of the industry, the interest of the consumers, and the government also. That's all what I can say.
Mr. Kumar?
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I have full faith in the wisdom of the GST Council, and they would take an appropriate decision considering all factors. The industry has also submitted their representation, and all the senior ministers and members of the GST, they are fully aware of the implications of the subject. And we hope that a view would be taken in the best interest of the industry, the employment, the exports, and to allow the consumers, the game lovers in this industry, to get a fair chance to play online games.
Thank you so much, both of you, for your different perspective. Let's wait and watch what will happen on Tuesday in the GST Council meeting. Let's cross our fingers. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manika. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.